We just assumed you'd be fine with the pull-out couch in the basement. You're the practical one." That was how my mother told me there was no room for me at the lake house my father had rented for my brother's graduation weekend, 2 weeks before the trip, over text. I stared at my phone for a long time. Not because I was surprised exactly, more because I kept waiting to feel surprised and it just never came. My brother was graduating from law school in May. The whole family was flying out to Ann Arbor. My parents, my aunt and her husband, my 2 cousins and my brother's girlfriend, whose name I will not say because she does not deserve the airtime. My father had rented a 6-bedroom lake house 40 minutes outside the city. 6 bedrooms, 11 people. I had done the math in my head the moment he mentioned it, back in January, and I remember thinking, that works out fine. Nobody has to double up if we don't want to. What I did not account for was that my father had quietly given one of those rooms to my brother's girlfriend's parents, who had decided last minute to come. And rather than find a solution that did not involve me sleeping in a basement on a fold-out couch with a bar that runs directly into your spine, they had simply decided I would be fine with it. Because I'm always fine with it. Because I am, as my mother put it, the practical one. I should give you some context. I'm 31. I work in operations for a mid-sized logistics company, which means I am, in the simplest terms, the person who makes sure things don't fall apart. I am good at it. I have been doing a version of it my entire life, just not always for the company I'm paid by. My brother is 26. He's brilliant, genuinely, and I don't say that with resentment. He earned his way into a top 10 law school and he worked hard while he was there. But there is a particular way our family has organized itself around him since he was about 14. And I have spent the better part of my adult life, either not noticing it or actively pretending not to. When he got his LSAT scores, my parents flew out to celebrate. When I got promoted 2 years ago, a promotion that came with a $40,000 raise and a team of 12 people, my mother sent me a card that said "So proud," and a $20 gift card to Starbucks. I used it. I'm practical like that. Over the years I had become the invisible infrastructure of our family. I organized Christmas. I researched and booked the flights for our parents' anniversary trip to Portugal, because my father doesn't trust the internet and my mother finds it stressful. I spent 3 weeks calling contractors when the kitchen in their house needed updating, and neither of them wanted to deal with the bids. I did it because it needed doing, and I was capable, and I told myself that was enough. It was not enough. When my mother's text came in, "We just assumed you'd be fine with the pull-out couch in the basement," I did not respond right away. I sat with it for 2 days. Then I called my father, because I still, at that point, believed in the possibility that this was a miscommunication. "Dad, is there actually no room for me? In a 6-bedroom house?" "Well, sweetheart, the Hendersons are coming last minute and they're guests, so..." "The Hendersons are not your guests, they're her parents." "Right, but it's his weekend and we want everyone comfortable. Everyone except me." He paused. "You've always been low maintenance, we didn't think you'd mind." There it was, that phrase. Low maintenance. In my family, that word had been applied to me so long it had calcified into identity. I was low maintenance the way a load-bearing wall is low maintenance. You never think about it until it's gone, and then the whole structure has a problem. I told my father I would think about it. I did not tell him what I was thinking about. What I did next, I did quietly, the way I do most things. I got online and I found a bed and breakfast about a mile from the venue where the graduation ceremony was being held. Private room, private bath, a little porch that overlooked a garden, and a woman named Mrs. Alderton who made biscuits from scratch every morning and left them outside your door at 7 a.m. in a cloth-lined basket. I booked 3 nights. I paid for it myself, which was fine because I had been quietly saving money for 2 years. And my expenses are low because I am, as established, practical. Then I did not tell anyone. I showed up at the airport on Friday morning and I flew to Michigan. My family was on a different flight, one I had been quietly removed from the group chat conversation about sometime in March. I noticed around April but said nothing. I took my own Uber to the B&B, left my bag, changed my clothes, and went to dinner by myself at a Thai place near campus that had a patio and a really excellent green curry. And I sat outside in the warm May air and ate the whole thing, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, which was completely, quietly unbothered. My mother texted at 9:30 that night. "Are you here? We're at the house. Come see the lake." I sent back. "Settled in for the night, see everyone at the ceremony tomorrow," she called. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one, which was about what I expected. The graduation itself was beautiful. My brother walked across that stage in his hood and his gown, and I genuinely, honestly cried, because whatever complicated thing exists between us does not erase the fact that I watched him grow up and I am proud of him. He found me in the crowd afterward and hugged me, and he smelled like the same shampoo he's used since college, and for a minute everything felt simple. Then his girlfriend's mother materialized at my elbow and said, "Oh, you must be the sister. "We've heard so much about you. Are you staying at the lake house too?" And I said, "No, I found somewhere else." And she said, "Oh, that's a shame. It's such a beautiful house." And I said, "It really is. You're lucky to have a room." She laughed like I'd made a joke. I had not made a joke. My mother found me about 20 minutes later, by which point the girlfriend's parents had clearly mentioned the exchange because her face had that particular arrangement it gets when she is trying to decide whether to be hurt or annoyed and hasn't landed yet. "Where are you staying?" she asked. "Why didn't you tell us you'd booked somewhere?" "I told Dad I'd think about it," I said. "I thought about it. We would have figured something out." "You had 2 weeks to figure something out. You figured out that I'd be fine on the pull-out couch." "I just meant." "I know what you meant, Mom." The reception was at a vineyard about 20 minutes from the lake house. It was genuinely lovely. Long tables outside under string lights, good wine, the kind of golden hour light that makes everything look like a memory while it's still happening. I sat next to my aunt, who is my father's sister and the only person in my extended family who has ever treated me with consistent straightforwardness. And we drank too much rosé, and she told me about a trip she was planning to New Zealand, and I thought, this is actually very nice. At some point during dinner, my father gave a toast. It was a good toast. He talked about my brother's determination, his intelligence, the sacrifices the family had made, the years of hard work. He mentioned my mother, he mentioned my aunt and my uncle. He looked around the table and said he was grateful to have everyone there. He did not mention me. I don't know if he realized it. I genuinely don't know. My aunt squeezed my hand under the table, which told me she noticed, and I looked at my rosé glass and I thought, with the particular clarity that only comes from a certain quantity of good wine, I am so tired. I flew home Sunday morning. My family was staying through Monday. I did not say goodbye to the lake house because I had never been to the lake house. I went back to my apartment, I made coffee, and I sat at my kitchen table with a second cup, and I looked out the window at the street below, and I thought about all the energy I had spent, year after year, being the infrastructure. Booking the trips, managing the logistics, being low maintenance, being practical, making myself smaller so everyone else could take up more room. I decided, sitting there, to stop, not dramatically. Not with a speech or a letter or a confrontation. Just to stop. The first thing I did was very simple. When my mother texted the following week asking if I could help research assisted living options for my grandmother because it was getting to be time and you're so good at that kind of thing, I replied, "That's a big decision. You should probably make some calls yourself." I'd start with her primary care doctor for referrals. Then I put my phone face down and went back to the book I was reading. She texted back 20 minutes later, "Oh, okay. I guess we can try." The second thing I did was cancel the standing monthly transfer I had set up 3 years ago to help my parents with their mortgage after my father had a rough quarter with his small business. The business had recovered. The transfer had continued, because no one had ever said anything about stopping it and neither had I. It was $400 a month. I moved it to a high-yield savings account instead and did not mention it to anyone. It was 3 months before my mother noticed. She asked if there had been a banking issue. I said, "No, I just decided to redirect that money. Dad's business has been doing well for 2 years." She didn't say anything for a moment, then she said, "Oh, all right, I had expected a fight." There was no fight. Which was its own strange kind of information. That fall, my company offered me a position in their Seattle office. A step up, a new team, significantly more responsibility, and a salary that made my current one look like a rough draft. I had been with the Chicago office for 6 years. I knew everyone. I liked my apartment. I had reasons to stay that had nothing to do with my family and several that did, if I was being honest. I took the job. I gave myself a month to tell them. Not because I was afraid of their reaction, but because I wanted to be fully decided before I had to manage their feelings about it. When I finally told my mother over the phone, there was a long pause. "Seattle," she said. "That's so far. It's a 4-hour flight. I'll come for Christmas, or you can come to me. I'll have a spare room." I paused. "A real one, not a pull-out couch." She was quiet again, then, "Is this about the graduation trip?" "It's about a good opportunity," I said. "A little bit." She asked if I was angry with them. I thought about it carefully, because I didn't want to lie and I didn't want to wound her more than was useful. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just done organizing my life around being low maintenance for everyone else." I heard her take a breath. "We took you for granted," she said finally. It was the first time I had ever heard her say something like that without it being pulled out of her in an argument, without tears or defensiveness. Just a plain sentence offered quietly. "Yeah," I said. "You did. I'm sorry. I know, I moved to Seattle in January, in the rain, which is the only way Seattle will accept new arrivals. It has to test you a little first. My apartment there has a view of the water if you stand at the right angle in the kitchen, which I do every morning while I wait for the coffee. I have a good coat now." I know which coffee shops have the best light for working on weekends. I have made one friend so far, a woman I met in my building who runs her own bakery and has very strong opinions about fermentation, and I think she might become a real one. My family flew out to visit in March. All of them. My parents, my brother, my aunt and uncle. My mother helped me hang curtain rods because she is, beneath everything, genuinely handy. My father took one look at my view and said, "Well, I can see why you came here," and there was something in his face that I think was pride, though it's never been his easiest emotion. My brother and I walked along the waterfront one afternoon while our parents snapped. He bought me a coffee I didn't ask for, and we stood looking at the sound, and he said, "I think I was part of the problem too. The graduation thing. You weren't the one who put me in the basement." "No, but I also didn't say anything when I found out." He looked at his cup. "I should have said something. I didn't tell him it was fine because it wasn't, and he wasn't asking me to say it was. He was just saying the true thing, which is sometimes the only thing there is to do." "Thanks," I said. Yeah, we kept walking. My mother calls every Sunday now. Not because I asked her to. She just started. Somewhere around February. We talk for 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. We talk about things I don't remember us ever talking about before. Her work, my work, what she's reading, what I'm reading, whether Seattle is as good as I thought it would be. Sometimes she asks for my advice on something, which she used to do constantly but always with the assumption that I'd simply handle it. Now she asks, and I answer, and then she handles it herself. It is better. It is genuinely quietly better. I don't know what they would have done if I just kept showing up. If I'd kept sleeping on pull-out couches and booking their trips and redirecting $400 a month toward a mortgage that didn't need it, I think they would have kept letting me. Not out of malice. I've had to make peace with the fact that my family's failure was mostly failure of attention, not intention. They saw a person who handled things and they let her handle things, and they never stopped to ask whether she wanted to. I stopped asking whether they would notice. I just let them figure it out, and I moved to a city where the mornings are gray, and the coffee is excellent, and the view from my kitchen makes me feel, most days, like I ended up somewhere that belongs to me. The pull-out couch is still there, I assume, in whatever basement my family rents next. They can put a guest in it. I'll be the one with the private room.